So hi and welcome back to Game Development with Unity 2D Part 2, Javelins and Battle Cries. So first of all, this time I want to show you some gameplay. Of course, as you can download the complete updated project, you can try and play by yourself, but let's have a look. And so we have our army in the forest and the Germanic tribes are waiting in the woods, so I can advance. You can hear I inserted some audio in the game created by my very special audio team. And if I advance beyond the trap, Germanic tribes will start assaulting, and as soon I can launch javelins and battle starts, and this is becoming, and so on, and I can advance, launch more javelins. I just have 2 for each unit. Yeah, I got it, and so on. So this has become almost a real battle. And cavalry, I can walk around, and so on and on. Okay, so the game has evolved a bit. Of course, there's an enormous amount of work to be done, but so these are the main things I want to see. How, I mean, from the point of view of results, I mean, we can launch javelins and we have audio. But first, I'd like to, if I remember well my program, which you will find, of course, in the corresponding blog post. First, I want to talk about the fact, I mean, some things, basic things I forgot on the first recording, and then how I revise the code, because you will see in the project that I've changed the code structure and also introduced some new classes. So let's go through that. Yes, one note is the fact that while I was hearing the audio of the units, you weren't, because I'm recording my microphone. So anyway, if you give it a try and play the game, you will hear that there's this audio integrated, but we'll get back to that in a while. So 2 things I wanted to say about the configuration is, one is that if you go to edit, preferences, colors, and if you change the play mode tint, this will help you, because it's very important to realize that when you're in play mode, so any changes in the variables that you're doing will not be saved. This is very useful for debugging and testing. And in fact, it's good it doesn't save, but if you don't distinguish the two modes very well, you may do some job that's actually you will lose as soon as you stop. And another thing I find really useful is in monodevelop is to because the problem is that monodevelop does not save as when it loses focus. So I actually substitute a shortcut for save to save all, and in order always to have updated material in your IDE when you play. And what else? Oh, also enabled format on save, because I mean, this is not IntelliJ, we don't live in great luxury, so you actually have to reformat code. It doesn't get perfectly formatted while you're typing in, but so if you do reformat on save, you get the code properly formatted. So this is just to help your productivity. Okay, what else? Yes, this is important. So a basic mistake which I did last time and I'm doing also this time is the fact that I didn't start with a game that is actually playable in the sense that you can win or lose. But actually, it would be very good idea to start as soon as possible, and I could have done it already, with something which is actually playable. I mean, a full game is playable, and you can somehow win or somehow lose. So, in fact, this is going to be my aim for the part 3. So that we can enter the cycle of having something in some sense complete, and so go through revisions. Okay. Now, so first thing, let's check the code. So the code. Well, I've organized the scripts in folders. I mean, these are not to be read as namespaces or coming from Java packages. I mean, having classes without a namespace seems extraordinarily lame. But I'm not sure, and in fact I've read contradicting information about the fact that you can smoothly use namespaces with mono behaviors. So for the moment we're not going to use them, but we are going to organize our files simply in folders. So we have environment, where we have the environment components, the environment classes, and managers. We have the battle scene manager and the game manager, which we talked in part 1. So here, that if you want to know about them, and units, where we have the abstract class unit and the concrete implementations. And there's one class more, which is unit state executor. We'll get to it in a moment. Then we have utilities, a few utility classes, and weapons is a new class. We'll have javelin, and then we'll have arrows and maybe catapults and so on. Well, one first thing I'd like to revise the hierarchy for units. So let's get to code, starting from the bottom. We'll start from Roman infantry. As we know, Roman infantry extends unit. We can see that even if the gameplay has evolved, there's not much more stuff. There's just the configuration stuff in Roman infantry as it should be. So that we know that we set the max movement, which is not much for the legions, and the remaining ammo. And this is important because we introduced javelins, and in fact historically each legionary had 2 javelins. And so we have 2 javelins there, and they get consumed if the soldiers throw them during the battle. The life points free. And also a new thing here is the state supported collection. That is, we have a basic set of supported states like idle or advancing, but each kind of unit can extend state supported with their own specific states. So units that can launch will add to this state ready launch to the state supported, which is a very comfortable way of getting this flexibility and configurability. So Roman infantry extends unit. Now unit has changed, I mean, quite a lot, but anyway, the point is that I saw that unit was growing way too much in amount of lines of code. So I created a supporting class, unit state executor, which does not extend your mono behavior, and in fact in which holds the instance of the unit to which it refers, which should somehow execute the states in which the unit enters, and should execute the states by delegating the execution of the states to the objects involved. For example, so if a unit enters a state of where it's launching projectiles, then the unit state executor will delegate the launch to a javelin instance. So which will hence, being a mono behavior extension, will have all the game objects available. So this is a nice structure, works quite well, avoid code reproduction, code duplication, but code reproduction would be interesting. But of course it's not optimal and not very elegant. So I hope to evolve it further in the future. What else to say about the code and its evolution? Let's get back. Well, let's go through unit. I think that could be useful, and see what's in there. Well, most of the things that are there were there already before. We have our states. We remember that states are numbers because this is the only way to get the states handled by the animator state machine. And now we have also audio. We'll get to it. You're using a nice class reflection trick to handle that. And we have an instance of unit state executor. What is nice of having a unit state executor, which is not static but it's an instance, is that units could extend. If they have a special state executor need, they could extend their instance with some class like Roman infantry unit state executor, which can modify and add methods to the base one. We haven't that yet, but that may be useful in the future. And now we also have an audio source instance, which is useful for units that are actually producing sound. What do we have? Well, that's it. Well, we have the remaining ammo variable, which will be useful soon. The unit state executor class, well, I moved here some of the codes, concerning execution of the states. Now, among the possible states of a concrete instance of unit, there's a basic collection containing the states that every kind of unit supports. That is idle, select, advanced, melee, and dead. And which in the instantiation of specific unit can be extended. Okay, I think this is basically what's new in code. Let's get now to our javelins. Now, after having done this wonderful pixel art, so we have two tiles, so 2 frames in animation. And having, as usual, created a Javelin prefab with, in this case, a circle collider. We can just put one here, zoom in to check it out. And we have circle collider, an animator, a rigid body. Now, what I want is that each there has to be some way to select to make the legionary enter the state ready to launch Javelin, and then then by pointing clicking on a target, the Javelin should be launched. So should be instantiated a prefab more or less where the legionary is, and I want it to go up and then down. Now up and down, we don't see here up and down, but we can do, because it's 2D, of course, and seen from the top. So, but we could do some effect there. And after having launched 2 javelins, that should be it. I also want that whoever the javelin hits gets damage. In fact, 2 kinds of damage, not only hit points, life points, but also some impairment in movement. In fact, the Roman javelins were deviously designed with a very hard point, and then they were supported by a not so hard half metal body, so that they would bend once they entered the shield or the armor of the enemy, so that to make the movement harder. And so let's see. So this is the first time we have to instantiate a game object via code. So how is this handled? So let's go to the code then. So on our unit, well, first of all, on the click, if the state of the unit is selected and the state supported by the unit contains state ready launch and remaining ammo are greater than 0, then we can enter the set state, which is state ready launch. So state ready launch means where is it handled? Well, probably in unit state executor. In launch projectile. No, we have to. I'm ready too far there. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah, unit here. So in unit. Okay, so yeah, here we handle the other clicks. No, so not on the game object. And so in this case, if we are steady in state ready launch, we do launch projectile, where use is the unit state executor instance that we're using inside unit. Now launch projectile, what does it do? So what's nice that in every kind of unit we can have a different prefab of a projectile. So the code that we've seen up to now is perfectly general. That is, it handles all the kinds of projectiles. You just have to have a different prefab set, different projectile prefab set on your unit prefab. So for example, let's go and check it out. So if we go to Javelin and Javelin, the Roman infantry, and we check the code, the script, here we have in projectile prefab we have set the Javelin, but if we had an arch we could have an arrow there, and so on. So the code is perfectly general, is not referring specifically to Javelin or Roman infantry. Then what we want, and this has been entirely non-trivial, I'm sparing you all the work I had to do here to get to actually what is, of course, once you found this very simple solution. For rotating the Javelin instance, so here's the Javelin is instantiated in the same position of the launcher. In fact, we could make it move it slightly from there, and then we have the target position. This is where we clicked, and then I want to rotate the Javelin towards the target position. Now actually Unity has built in Unity Physics has built in methods like look at, and also using quaternion's combination, that is multiplication, which should handle this, but they're all focused to the 3D space, and it's a mess to use them in the 2D space. So I used actually a much simpler angle calculation, and I reason in Euler and in singular coordinates. But to get use the simple path was the simple way. It took me actually a whole afternoon. Anyway, apart from the scarcely documented 2D space management, once you have this, the launch by two method is called, passing the unit in the target position is called on the Javelin in this case. Now you may say, I see here
here there is the a specific we're talking here javelin, so how could be an arrow? Of course here we should instantiate the projectile, and we could have that all in fact projectiles, all javelin arrow extend projectile, so to handle this more elegantly. Anyway, so a projectile would have an abstract method, or it could be an interface and have launch by to. Anyway, let's go to see what this does. And launch by to simply does launch, and now I actually have that Javelin instances have a trigger events. That is, they don't use a rigid body for impact. So that this is nice, so I can make it pass above the other sprites. And I want to point out that when it hits a unit, whatever it is, so you can launch javelins towards, if by mistake you can launch javelins against your own units, and they will damage them. So life points will be decreased, and the max movement also will be decreased. And then the javelin will be destroyed. So this is the basic structure of the javelin code. Now, all this has to be associated to animations, of course. So the javelin animator, and of course it doesn't show me the animation. This is because of the perversity of the UI. But if I take this is the trick. Put an instance here, and then it shows me the animation. Okay. So this is, I want to show, the first animation is just the javelin alternating between the two states. Okay, so that is, say, it's going, okay, flying, okay. And this, but I want to have a second animation in the first part of the javelin lifetime. I wanted, in fact, at first to run the animation javelin upwards, which is actually just javelin upwards is just a scale transformation. So I just modify the scale of the javelin by making it larger. So you have the impression that it's coming upwards in the sky. And then I have a trigger. It's also a new notion in this for handling the state. So I have here that it goes upwards, because upwards is triggered, and then it when it's has ended, at exit time it goes back to javelin. So that is the standard animation. So this makes it that when you launch a javelin, it comes upwards, and then it keeps animating, and it comes down, then it hits. So, but I've used this further in code. This is the nice exchange between animator and code, and nice and easy, because I actually the javelin hits and damages and gets and self-destroys only when it's not high above. That is, it's not going upwards. That is not in the animator state, javelin upwards. Okay, so this is a nice trick. So if we go into gameplay, so if we select a unit, then select it again, and this is javelin ready to launch state. Then I can launch it here. It's received, it's rotated towards the direction. It was bigger here because it went into animator state upwards, and then it hit. Okay, so probably if I go and check the life of that poor Germanic unit, it should have decreased. Let me see. You see, max movement is 0.8, so it lost a bit of movement. It was 1, and life points is 2. It was 3. Okay. Okay, so that is how I handle Javelin with prefabs, animator, and code. Okay, and then finally audio. Now audio is so handled greatly by Unity, and it's full power and generality, because so Unity has the notion of audio listeners, and so you can have multiple audio listeners, which you can understand, if I got it correctly, as microphones. So with a camera you can associate a microphone, which is called audio listener, and it will do everything for you, like so listening to several audio sources. In fact, here for comfort, for the previous parts, I turned off the gizmo. Gizmo is what the symbols used to represent information in Unity. The audio source gizmo, because it was too invasive, and seems to have a little skill problem. So anyway, you can see that there's an audio component in all the units, and of course I will put one also on the Javelins, but for the moment it's on the I put it only on the units. And so as my camera has an audio listeners, if you play the game you will actually hear audio. Now what's nice, we already have state management, so it would be nice to us to somehow automatically add audio management in function of the state in which the unit is, and that is in fact exactly what you will find in this project, because what I did here is that first of all I've associated slots, audio slots for the prefabs for all the states present. So in this way, so this as it is in unit, and of course each prefab extends unit, each prefab's class, associated class actually. So instance, each prefab's associated class instance extends unit. So we have these slots available, so you can configure put your different audio clips for different army instances, which is probably exactly what you want. And so this is nice, so because you can do it from this environment. So in case of Roman infantry, in fact, I've put a sound for state 2, which is advanced, and a sound for state 3, which is melee. And so you just have to drag the sounds around. And how is the magic of handling the sounds done? It's done actually by a simple Java reflection trick. C# reflection trick. I mean, if you come from Java, you'll be familiar with that. The fact is that both in Java and in C#, you can, like code is aware of its own structure. So classes are aware in code of their own structure. So what we do here on the set state movement, when a unit changes states, we go to search for the audio field, audio property if you want, corresponding to the state, and we check its value, okay, and with get value. So if you actually you set an audio clip on that field, it will be played, and that's it. So if we have 10 kinds of units and 10 kinds of states, in this way, with these 3 lines of code, you actually handle 100 different kinds of audio. So that's cool, and so you should try and play the game and hear the audio. In fact, the audio is super cool because it's done by my kids. I just recorded them doing the sound of battles or the sound of Roman advancing and so on. So in fact, I think, let me check it out, but I think this is all for part 2. And so in part 3 I want to have, in fact, a playable game. I wouldn't want to add any more features, but just to refine what we have for the moment, and then we'll go beyond that. Thanks for hearing. Oh, thanks so much for the encouragement I received, and the nice cool messages, and in fact also feedback on the code, because if anybody hearing is an expert, they will be aware, I mean, that I'm just learning stuff here every day. So thanks, and hear you soon.